Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Life on the Wrist. Happy Friday everyone. Hope you're doing well. It is at the end of the week. I hope you guys are going to be enjoying the weekend. Today we're going to be discussing the MB&F HM5. We're going to be continuing my love for MB&F. We've discussed MB&F's horological machines number 1 to 4 in previous videos, so if you are interested in seeing those videos, be sure to check them out. But today we're going to be discussing the HM5, nicknamed On the Road Again. But before we get into the watch, if you haven't already, and I say it every single video, be sure to hit that like button. Let's see how many likes we can rack up on this one for the On the Road Again watch from MB&F. Also, if you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It really does help us out. So the MB&F HM5 Horological Machine number 5 is another creation from Max Büse and Friends, which is my favorite watch company. If you are watching Max or anyone from MB&F, thank you so much for everything that you've done for watchmaking, as well as my passion for watches. As I said, this watch is called On the Road Again, and it has a very unique style that is very reminiscent of Max's childhood. I think discussing the inspiration is probably the place to start when it comes to this watch. As you can probably tell from all of the watches that come out of MB&F, this watch is an inspiration from Max's childhood. Specifically, this is from, and you can probably see it in the design, the case design. It takes a lot of inspiration from classic cars from the 1970s. For example, Max mentioned in an interview the Lamborghini Miura. The back of the Lamborghini Miura and a lot of the cars from this era had a very sloping, kind of similar sloping back with these louvers in the back windows of these cars, and I think that's where the majority of the inspiration from this watch came. But there was a lot of inspiration that came from digital watches from the 70s. Max mentioned in an interview that he kind of found watches and he kind of discovered digital watches when he was around 10 years old, and that kind of is reminiscent of that kind of comes out in the design of the HM5. When you look at how you tell the time, it is a digital. You read it as the digital time, but obviously it's a mechanical piece. There's also a vintage watch that there are vintage watches that it takes some of its inspiration from. One specific watch that I think it takes the majority of its inspiration from is actually a watch called the MB&F. We had one of these watches that we had purchased for the vintage watch store, but it has very similar stylistic elements, and it also is a mechanical watch. So very, very similar to the HM5, and very cool watch to take inspiration from. As I said, it takes its inspiration a lot from cars of the 1970s, and that kind of is shown in the case design of this watch. So getting into the case design, obviously, like I said, inspiration from the MB&F, as well as the supercars from the 70s. The first one that came out was in Zirconium, then they had one that came out in red gold, and then CarbonMarcolon was the last version of this, and that actually came out in 2014. So these watches, the HM5 is not released anymore by MB&F. This is a big watch. If you compare it to I'll put up a picture of it next to an MB&F, because the size difference in these watches is actually pretty crazy. From the website, it measures the measurements of the watch are 51.5 by 49 by 22.5 millimeters. So it's a very big watch. It's going to sit pretty high on your wrist. It's going to be quite wide. So something that you should consider if you're looking to purchase this watch. It has a bidirectional jumping hour. The movement itself is a bidirectional jumping hour movement that was manufactured by Max and some of his friends. But the biggest thing is how you read the time. So instead of reading it by looking down on your wrist, you actually look at the watch horizontally, and it tells you the time in a digital function. That digital function is actually 2 flat discs that lay on the top of the movement, but there is a prism that reflects the time up into the way in which you would end up reading the watch. So you read it horizontally as opposed to looking down at the dial of the watch, which I think is extremely cool. I think it's a much cooler way of reading the time, and not something that you're going to end up seeing very often. The louvers on the back of the watch that resemble the louvers that are kind of reminiscent of the cars are located on the back of the watch, and there's a crown on the side of the watch that you can actually use to open the louvers, which allows light to go into the movement. the way in which you read the time is actually the hour markers on the discs are actually charged with superluminova. So when you open the louvers on the back of the watch, you end up letting light go in, which charges up that superluminova, which allows you to read the time. And then obviously you can close it. So a very cool function, a very functional function, something that is going to be useful for you to do when it comes to reading the time. Kind of moving into the movement of the watch, the friends that kind of helped Max create this watch are probably one of the most important parts of why Max started MB&F, and he kind of wants to make sure that people who are doing amazing things within watchmaking get the recognition that they deserve. So in order to give them the recognition, the individuals that helped Max, there's probably some that I won't mention, but Jean-Francois Mojon and Vincent Bourard were two of the individuals that assisted Max in creating this piece. The movement that is in the HM5 it's a Girard-Perregaux or Sowind gear train that has obviously been adopted by Mojon and Bourard to fit the needs of the HM5. It is a 42-hour power reserve, so probably something that you're going to have to wind. You know, that's an average power reserve, so nothing too special there. And if you turn the watch over, as always, it has the iconic battle axe rotor that spins to charge the movement. What's really cool about this watch, and it kind of differs from the Amida Digitrend, is the fact that on the Amida there is a crown on the right side of the watch, but on the HM5 the crown is actually on the back of the watch, kind of where the exhaust would be. So kind of a cool stylistic element from them. So I think that is a good description of where the watch came from, the inspiration behind it, what it looks like. I'll be sure to put up some videos and pictures so you can see it. Kind of transitioning into my thoughts of the watch, I absolutely love this watch. I love the design of the watch. The reason why we got the Amida Digitrend is the fact that I really love the design inspiration behind this watch. One thing about the Life on the Wrist store is I only buy watches that I can trace the history of them, but also I purchase watches that I feel represent me, what I enjoy buying, because I would like to create a community around people who like similar watches that I do, and the Amida Digitrend is no exception to that. And being that I love that design, the HM5 is obviously there's no reason for me not to like it. I found the HM5 first, found out about the Amida Digitrend later, but I absolutely love the design behind it. I think cars from this era are extremely cool. I also like the fact that it's extremely functional, and it displays time in a way that is not normal for a lot of mechanical watches. A lot of the times you're going to be reading the time off of dials, as opposed to looking at through a prism that reflects the time upwards so that you can read it horizontally. I think it's so cool. So I love the design of it. When it comes to whether or not which MB&F watch I would end up purchasing, yeah, looking back at the HM1, 2, 3, 4s, this is a very, it's a hard decision. I think I would take this one over the HM3. I think I would take the HM1. HM1 and HM5 are very close for me. I think those are the two that I would be kind of contemplating the most, which one out of those two I would get. But HM5 is definitely very far up there. It is quite big, so perhaps it would look kind of weird on my wrist, but regardless, I think I would enjoy wearing it. So I think this is, again, a watch that you have to have in your hands and feel and enjoy the touch of it and see what it looks like on your wrist. I think that goes with a lot of MB&F watches, but I think you also get that kind of inspiration of cars within it. It has a rubber strap, which kind of reminds you of rubber, kind of tire, and gives you the feel of tires. So definitely something you have to have on your wrist. But on the road again, another masterpiece from MB&F. It sold extremely quickly, really cool case metals, and a watch that I absolutely love. So again, thank you MB&F for creating an amazing piece. If you haven't seen our other videos where we've discussed the MB&Fs 1 to 4, be sure to check those out in our channel. And if you've made it this far and you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button as well as the subscribe button. If you like videos about watches, it's what we do here, and we try to post 3 times a week. So if you didn't see the videos from this week, Wednesday we discussed Glashütte as a place to travel for watches. We discussed what we think you should be doing in Glashütte when it comes to watches. And on Monday we discussed a legendary figure in the watch, a legendary watchmaker, and this time we discussed Jean-Marc Vacheron, who was the original founder of Vacheron Constantin. So if you haven't seen that, be sure to check out those videos from this week, and I hope you guys have a nice weekend. And with that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time.